I genuinely forgot that we were going to have reruns in this patch. I don't know how I forgot because I literally made a video on those characters before the patch even went live. But we're going to go over the characters in this patch, which character you should roll for. I mean, at this point, you probably are already making that decision, but for those of you that are still on the fence, I think this will be the video for you. And in place of Dr. Ratio, because he is a character that will be given for free to the players, we're just going to go over his lightcone instead, because that also is an enticing pull if you don't want to go for any of the characters this patch. Anyways, let's hop into today's video. Yo, what up, Toshi here. So let's start off with the current rate up character, Ruan Mei. She's an amazing character. Her value has continued to grow as time goes on, and more players are starting to find even more synergies with the character that we did not know previously. She is an amazing character, but do you actually need Ruan Mei? The answer is no, she's not a must-pull character, because she doesn't formulate any team comps or brute force any team comps like Silverwolf, Topaz, and Kafka. To me, those are characters that are must-pulls for those specific playstyles. Ruan Mei doesn't really enforce a playstyle, she enhances the playstyle. We've had characters in her place that have done what she did, but Ruan Mei just does what those characters did better now. And for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about Asta in the dual DPS team comps. So even outside of dual DPS team comps, in the hyper carry team, she is really good. Alongside Bronya, she provides the most damage buffs possible for your damage dealer. This is going to give you the best damage output out of using any other character. Now for some characters, some other characters do seem more enticing, like Seal for instance. You probably want to use Silverwolf over Ruan Mei if the enemy isn't weak to Quantum, but that's just Seal and Seal only. Once you get Dr. Ratio, you probably won't need Ruan Mei, because let's say you already have Silverwolf. Well, you have a character that is going to work even better alongside Dr. Ratio. The weakness implant, the imaginary resistance decrease, the damage increase for the character, and then the debuffs, all of those debuffs that Dr. Ratio needs in order to increase his damage output. So Ruan Mei doesn't help with any of those things that Dr. Ratio needs for his kit, whereas Silverwolf does that already. So if you are just looking for Dr. Ratio only, then don't go for Ruan Mei. Funny enough, in a team with Yukong, you can actually replace your Yukong with Ruan Mei, and Ruan Mei is going to provide very nice results for the team. You can actually replace your Bronya too, and put Ruan Mei in place of Bronya, and you'll have buffs that are dependent on her own turns, and the rotations will feel a lot more safe, because you're not going to be using up as many skill points as you do with Bronya. Now, one thing to take into consideration about Ruan Mei is that speed tuning on the character doesn't really matter. So it doesn't matter what character you use alongside Ruan Mei in your double harmony setup, because she's a very flexible and skill point positive character. A lot of these other harmony characters are not very skill point positive. Asta is skill point neutral. Bronya is skill point neutral to skill point negative. Yukong is skill point neutral. Skill positive, you literally never use her elemental skill, but you don't have uptime in your attack percentage, and therefore she's a skill point neutral to skill point negative character, and Ting Yun is the only skill point positive character here. So if you use Ting Yun and Ruan Mei in the same team, you have an abundance of skill points, and for some damage dealers, that's amazing. But rather here, Ruan Mei just fixes all of the issues that these characters had for the longest time, and that was skill point consumption. And I kid you not, literally being able to start the battle with your technique and allowing this character to have the elemental skill without using the elemental skill up, you'll have literally 3 stacks of this. You'll never have to worry about using skill points in the first 3 turns. It is insane. Now, while she is a very flexible character and she works with any character in the game, there is characters she works especially well with, and one of those characters is Kafka. That's because of all the buffs and the weakness break efficiency that Ruan Mei provides for the team is everything Kafka and her dot allies need. In fact, I'll go as far as to say you can use Ruan Mei alongside 3 other dot characters, and since Ruan Mei is a skill point positive, literally a skill point generator, not even skill point positive, a skill point generating character, well, the dot team with 2 other dot characters alongside Kafka is going to yield very nice results, because Ruan Mei literally gives everything you need for those dot characters. And if you play around with the weakness break in this game, there's going to be some scenarios where you don't even have to worry about getting hit by the enemy, because the enemies will be weakness broken all the time from your team. Because again, you have 4 characters contributing towards the weakness break of that target. Another one of those characters is going to be Topaz, and I'm very happy that this character finally has her tailor-made support. I won't say tailor-made support, but a very nice support to use alongside this character. The reason why is for the longest time it's been very hard to use any support with this character, because as you all know, follow-up attacks, or should I say characters that have follow-up attacks in their kit, have the backloaded damage, and since their damage is backloaded, you can only buff that damage once it is their turn. Well, if you have a character that is able to buff the damage that is dependent on her own turns, so no matter when those damage dealers go, they're still going to keep uptime on those buffs, making use and buffing all the damage at all given points in the fight. Well, there you go. You have a very nice character to use alongside Topaz. And let's not forget Argenti. Argenti likes Ruan Mei as well because he's a character that is skill point negative just like any other damage dealer. And on top of that, those buffs that Ruan Mei provides for him is very valuable. He is a character that just does so much damage. If you take it into consideration, his toughness breaking is also really massive too because of his multi-hitting mechanic. Whenever you kill these surrounding enemies and you only have one boss left with your ultimate, your second charge of your ultimate, you deal so much damage to that single target with the multi-hits. And Ruan Mei buffing the weakness break efficiency and buffing the weakness break in general is going to allow this character to do even more damage on top of his already insane amount of damage. This guy does so much fucking damage. I don't think people realize how much damage this guy does. It is insane. Oh, another character that was buffed by Ruan Mei is Clara. Clara works really well alongside Ruan Mei. You can use Clara in dual DPS setups with Topaz. You can use Clara in dual DPS setups with other hyper carry damage dealers, like for instance Seal. I mean, it's not optimal, but it still gets the job done. And since Clara is a character that's very slow anyways, she's going to retain those buffs. Whenever the enemy attacks her, she's going to attack the enemy back, dealing massive damage because she retains those buffs from Ruan Mei, and contributing more to the overall weakness break of the enemy. So if the enemy is weak to physical, you're going to absolutely decimate their weakness. As for her lightcone choice, there's really only two options you should use in this game. And one of those options is going to be Memories Past if you have high refinements on this lightcone. Even a refinement 1 is still really good on the character because the break effect you get and the energy you get on the character whenever you attack, because remember she is a skill point generating character, she's going to be using her basic attack nearly every single turn. You're going to generate more energy for the character. And then for anyone that does not have Memories of Past, Meshing Cogs is really good still because it gives energy whenever you attack or are attacked by the enemy. She's a Harmony character, so she has a higher taunt value. This lightcone is really, really strong. So I think even though Ruan Mei is a very overtuned character, having a character on the tier of her is still very nice. I mean, we have a character finally that is flexible no matter what team you use in the game. And for every damage dealer, she was a net positive. Now, some damage dealers more than others, right? Because they're able to take advantage of her kit more than those other characters. If you are a damage dealer that is able to take advantage of the best supporters in the game, you're just going to be a better damage dealer than other damage dealers that are not able to utilize those best supports. That's pretty much how Honkai Star works. But since every character works well enough with Ruan Mei, some scenarios isn't as different from other scenarios. So Ruan Mei is obviously the best pickup this patch, so if you don't have the character ready, I suggest you pick her up. But if you are just not looking to pick up any character for the meta and you just want to play with whatever, then save your pulls honestly because there's a lot of enticing characters coming on the way, but we'll make a whole dedicated video for all those other characters that are also upcoming this year. Now let's talk about Blade. He is a solid character. He's not amazing, but he is solid. He gets the job done. But I think one of the things that holds him to relevancy even till today is the fact that he is really the only wind damage dealer in the game. Since he is still the only wind damage dealer in the game, there is no other benchmark to, compare to. So therefore, he's going to remain his relevancy for a very long time until we receive another wind damage dealer that is just better numbers than him, unfortunately. But that's just me being honest. He still gets the job done. And in combination with other characters like Jing Lu, he works really well. That is one of his best teams currently, dual DPS setup with Jing Lu. And alongside Ruan Mei too, because she buffs all of those characters as well. So he has a very solid team that works very nice in the meta right now. But the problem is this character just needs Bronya to work well in hyper carry. If you don't have Bronya, he really does not work well in hyper carry. It just does not work that well. But what I do think is very nice about the character is that he is a sub DPS that doesn't drain as many skill points as other damage dealers in the team. That is one of the best things about the character, one of the best selling points. So going forward, he's going to retain his value as being a sub DPS in a damage oriented setup with another damage dealer. I think that is very, very nice because we don't have too many characters that fit that category. Oh, in a very long time, I did make a video comparing Blade to Clara. These two characters to me work essentially the same. They are sub DPS, they don't eat up as many skill points. Clara is skill point positive, but Blade isn't that far behind from being a nice character for the skill point economy. And these two characters have a counter attack in their kit, and these two characters also just soak up so much damage from the enemy. And they also do take advantage from having a higher taunt value. Use links alongside Blade, and he'll have a higher taunt value, allowing him to stack his talent quicker and to get that counterattack in as fast as possible, dealing more damage to the enemy. Now, the thing is about Blade, he does utilize a very strong light cone for the destruction path, and that is a secret vow. He utilizes this light cone better than any other character in the path by far. Arlen close to him, but who plays Arlen, right? Let's be honest here. This light cone is very, very strong because it increases the damage of Blade a massive amount. Depending on the refinements you have on the light cone, you're going to buff his damage greatly. And for a character that wants to deal as much damage as possible, because again, he is a sub DPS, he is contributing to the overall team DPS, having a very solid 4-star light cone that does everything he wants to do, and he has 100% uptime on the passive, just yields nice results for the character. But just like Clara, he's a solid character. It's not like you actually need him, and I don't think anyone is going to recommend him at this point in Honkai Star Rail. Because, well, where he was excelling at the game kind of long past. Now, we have other damage dealers that just deal way more damage than he does, while also being as skill point efficient as he is, like Jinglu, for instance. Again, she is a mistake in this game. But since that mistake was made, do you really need to use a character that is just lesser of Jinglu? Not really. But these two characters work really well together, so there's that. But, you know, you assess whether or not you want to spend that much on one specific playstyle. Because, again, that's really one way of playing the game, but there's also the other way of just collecting characters also. So we're going to talk about Dr. Ratio, but rather we're going to talk about Dr. Ratio's light cone. Now, there is one thing to take into consideration before you do pull in the light cone. There is the chance you do lose your 75-25 and you get a light cone you do not want to use, or you probably won't ever use on your account, right? If you pull Himiko's light cone, you don't have Himiko, or any other Rude Edition character that you like using, you essentially have bricked your account. Now, that's not the end of the world, but there is always that disclaimer that needs to be made, right? And for Dr. Ratio exclusively, there is Swordplay, which is a very solid light cone on the character. It increases damage dealt, and it stacks really quick on the character because he has a lot of follow-up attacks in his kit. Now, he does a lot of single target damage, a massive amount, so you may not be able to keep the uptime of this 100% because maybe you'll just be absolutely decimating the enemies you do hit. So whenever you do get to that, that final stack for the light cone, you probably have already killed the opponent, right? So then you'll reset. But this is still a very solid light cone to use on the character because you increase his overall damage dealt. Remember, we have Cruisin' and Stellar Sea from Herda's shop in the similar universe. So this is a very solid light cone to use on any hunt character. So if you already have this and you already have it with max refinements, it is going to be a very nice light cone to use on the character. You give him so much crit rate, and you give him attack increase whenever he kills the enemy. It doesn't work as good as it does on Seal, right, for Dr. Ratio, but it is still very close to that. Now, let's talk about Dr. Ratio's light cone for a second. Now, obviously, the light cone has not been revealed yet, so I'll be honest here, I don't know what the light cone does, and I'm not going to bother looking at leaks to know what the light cone does, but we can infer a couple of things about what the light cone can provide for the character, because every light cone in the game is tailor-made for the rate-up character. I'm pretty sure all of you know that at this point. So the light cone is most likely going to increase either the crit rate or crit damage of Dr. Ratio, is going to give him a ton of crit stats, and is also going to increase his follow-up attack damage, which, again, he does a lot of follow-up attacks in his kit. So if you already have Topaz's light cone, you probably don't need to roll for Dr. Ratio's light cone. Keep that in mind. But if you do not have a light cone you like using on the character, maybe you don't have high refinements on your 4-star Swordplay, or you don't have Cruisin' and Stellar Sea because you used all of your Herda bonds on standard pools like an idiot like me. I'm not calling you an idiot, but I'm an idiot for doing it, so you can call me idiot. Then you probably won't have enough to use that on the light cone. And I can attest and say, as someone that has Daniel with his 5-star light cone, it is a huge DPS increase for the character overall. You get a crit rate increase, which is very, very solid for a character that needs crit rate in order to deal as much damage as possible, and you get attack percentage, and the energy regeneration is so nice in combination with characters like Kuohuo and Ting Yun. If I did not have Daniel's light cone, my Daniel will be performing less because I would have less crit rate, which means I would need to go farm for more crit stats from relics, and I would need a light cone that actually buffs the character as decent as possible compared to his 5-star light cone. So I will say it greatly enhances the performance of the character. So with all that in mind, since we are getting a free Dr. Ratio, actually pulling for his light cone is something to take into consideration. I don't normally advise pulling for light cones in Honkai Star Rail, just because getting more characters is better than pulling light cones overall for characters, right? But since we are getting one for free, and I do count that as being a rerun, quote-unquote, not necessarily a rerun, but a rerun, quote-unquote, because you already have the character, why not go for the light cone? Because, again, if you're not pulling for Ruan Mei, you already have Ruan Mei, this is still going to be the best pull for this patch on top of that. However, that does not stand true if you are someone that enjoys Kafka and have always wanted to use this character. Now, I will say one thing about Kafka. You have to enjoy the dot playstyle. If you don't enjoy the dot playstyle, then you probably won't want to roll for this character, because she does not crit, which for some players is a no-go, because maybe you like seeing big giant numbers on the screen like I do from, a single target hit from Seal, or maybe you want to see Dr. Ratio's big single target damage as well. Kafka doesn't really do that. She works in combination with other characters, and she's a nice supporter, enabler, damage dealer on her own as well, but she just does not put out big giant numbers on the screen. Unless you have other dot characters in the team party, then you have the perfect ideal setup where enemies are weak to lightning. But what she does offer is, for me personally, a very fun playstyle. I think the dot playstyle in this game is very, very nice. It's very consistent and is very enjoyable. I say consistent because you don't have to worry about critting. Since you don't have to worry about critting, and you only need a certain amount of effective rate to land those debuffs on an enemy, it is going to perform the same across the board. I consider it to be like monoquantum. It's very consistent, and that's really all there is to it. Sometimes consistency is the best way to go about things, right? Since we are receiving Black Swan next patch, even picking up Kafka would be a very solid option right now, because these two characters are most likely going to perform extremely well together. So if you want to play with the dot playstyle, now is a great time to get invested into it. Having a lightcone like Goodnight and Sleep Well in your account with high refinements is going to be very nice for Kafka, because this is very competitive to her 5-star lightcone. Now, of course, the 5-star lightcone is always going to pull ahead compared to the 4-star lightcones, or even the other 5-star lightcones in the game that is, not tailor-made for that character. But Goodnight and Sleep Well is very, very, very strong, and I do understand it is a gacha lightcone. So a lot of you probably don't have this with refinements, let alone maybe even having one copy. So if that's you, then Fermata at Refinement 5, which you can unlock from the Memories at Chaos shop, is going to be very nice on the character. You increase your break effect, and you increase your damage to enemies that are inflicted with Shock or Wind Shear. That is literally Kafka or Black Swan. Very, very solid. Now, Sampo was that character, but Sampo got replaced by Black Swan. Let's be completely honest here. This lightcone in combination with Ruan Mei is very, very strong, because Ruan Mei gives break effect to the whole team, and for Kafka this is huge. Just like the Jinglun Blade team is going to be rather expensive, because you're looking at 3 limited characters, and you're looking at a 5-star lightcone whether or not you want to invest further into Kafka, right? But this lightcone in combination with Ruan Mei is just so freaking good. But that's all there really is to say about Kafka. She is a very solid character. She has a very nice playstyle. It's very easy to get into. I consider it to be Nilu Bloom. We made a video on this a while ago when Kafka did release into this game, but she has not changed and her team has only gotten better. Now, against enemies that are weak to lightning, just like you'd bring Jing, you can bring her instead, or you can bring her also. She's very, very solid. Pulling for her lightcone could be a thing, right? If you want to invest further into Kafka or her playstyle overall. But the reason why I'm not really wanting to include in this video is only because I'm just saying and not actually wanting to consider this as being an option to pull for in this patch. But the reason why is because there is literally 3 limited characters you're most likely going to want to use for this playstyle. You have Ruan Mei, you have Kafka, and then you have Black Swan coming next patch. Chances are you're not going to be able to get all 4 options. You're only able to maybe pick, 3 if you're really lucky, 2 if your luck is average, and 1 if you're very unlucky. And that's not even me including Huo, who is the best supporter for not only dual DPS teams, but for dot teams as well. So this is another option to make Kafka have the best dot team possible. So there you have it. I know we're at the point in Honkai Star Rail where we're having reruns with characters that you probably already have rolled for, and a lot of you have already invested into the playstyle that you're currently enjoying or want to continue building towards in the future for this game. So therefore, you're not really interested in what I have to say in this video, but this video was for those of you that are on the fence or probably looking to get into a new playstyle, because that's also some people out there that play this game, right? Maybe there is new players that have not decided what they want to roll for yet. But getting a free Dr. Ratio is nice for everyone across the board. So pulling for his lightcone or wanting to pull for his lightcone is a very solid choice, because again, if you're not pulling for any other character in this patch, you don't really care about what's coming next patch, get the lightcone. He'll be very strong alongside the lightcone as well. That's going to be the video here. What am I pulling for personally? Well, Ruan Mei, I still am working towards getting the character. I will get Ruan Mei and we'll make a few videos on her, but unfortunately I wasn't able to make the video sooner because again, my luck is just absolutely garbage in this game. I can't believe how bad it is compared to Genshin, but even in Genshin is still pretty bad. I just think my luck in Hoyo games are just awful. When I play any other, and I mean any other game, my luck is extraordinarily crazy. and even counting those games having similar rates to Genshin or Starro. They're the same game, for crying out loud. Thank you for watching and have a nice rest of your day. Happy New Year's. Peace.